Hello and welcome back to Retfurb. So on today's video we've got this Sony TC204SD. It's got some issues, so we're going to get straight into the video, do a quick test and just see what's going on with it. So as you can see from that, there's an issue with playing the tapes. I would presume it's probably the belts that have gone inside, but I'm going to have to get inside, have a quick look and see what's what. Also, there's an issue with the VU meters. It wasn't doing it on the video then, but most of the time when you turn it on, there's a brief pause and then they start flickering. So there's some sort of issue with that we're going to have to look at inside. In the video you can see that they were actually working okay as far as I could see. Also there's some bulbs that are not working. One of the VU meter bulbs are gone, and the bulb which is behind the tape deck itself, the actual tape part itself, that one's gone as well, so they also need replacing. So let's get straight into it, let's get it stripped down and let's get it sorted. So first thing I'm going to do on this one is remove the wooden outer case. Now I'm not actually going to be using this case again because on the units that it's going to be paired with, they don't have the wood case, so it's just going to be the metal case as shown at the moment. So once you do the two screws on each side, removing them, then you can remove the wood piece and then the metal case comes off. So you can see inside generally it looks to be in good condition, not too dirty, not too dusty, so I will give it a quick hoover out on that before I sort of go ahead. And you can just see here a bit more of a close-up to where the belts are. So these do look quite sort of soft and worn, so I'm pretty sure that that's the issue we've got here. You can see here I'm just sort of moving them around. You can see they're quite sort of flexible. They shouldn't be that flexible. They obviously will have a little bit of flex, but yeah, you can see that they're pretty knackered. So I'm going to replace those. There's two on the back and then there's another one on the side which does the dial. First off though, on this one it was missing the feet as well, so I bought some sort of universal feet for it that I have to sort of pack out of a couple of washers just to make them the right height, but they were easy enough to do, nice and cheap, so nice quick repair on that bit. So now I'm just going to loosen the front panel on the tape deck, so then it'll make it easier to remove the cassette area, and then we can get inside and move the belts. Now to be honest, you might not have had to do that, but it does make it a lot easier. I think it would be quite fiddly if you didn't remove the screws for the front panel and just allow it to move around a little bit, and also the tape deck section to undo that as well, like I'm doing now. It just makes it a lot easier to move it around and get in. Now I've done other tape decks without removing the actual part or loosening it off, and I've done the belts okay, but some are not quite so easy, and this one to be honest looked like it was going to be easier just to loosen it off. So yeah, waffling on a bit there, but yeah, you know, it just makes it easier in the long run. So just flipping it over, there's a couple of screws underneath there that's holding the tape section in place as well, and then I'm just removing the rest of the screws on the back of the fascia, which will then allow me to pull that piece out. So just removing the outer fascia panel for the cassette area, and now I'm just loosening. There's a small rod which connects across, which operates a switch for the record section, so I'm just removing that bit so then it'll allow me to get into this cassette area, and just removing the bulb. One of the wires had come off of that, so this will need replacing. And now there's a small little metal shield which goes over the belts. It holds one of the pulleys in place, so that's 3 screws there, and you can just remove that and it just comes off nice and easy. It allows access to the belts. So you can see here a little bit more close up, you can see how the belt sort of goes through onto the motor and onto the back of the mechanism. So this is the easiest way I found to do it. You can just release it from the back and then pull it out this way. So you can see it makes it a lot easier with the cassette deck loosened, so the mechanism's actually separate. So I keep a lot of spare belts, universal belts. I'm just checking I've got the right sort of size one here. It's a tiny little bit too small, but it'll be fine. So now I'm just feeding it back through the same way that I pulled it out and just putting it over the pulleys. So one of the belts is a flat sort of type belt and the other one's a square sort of shaped belt, And then there's a small square shaped belt as well for the little dial which shows the numbers for the cassette when it's operating. So again, just feeding it back over the pulley. It is a little bit fiddly, some of this, just takes a little bit of time, but you can see there it's all done, didn't take too long. And now we can put the piece back over the back which holds the pulley in place. Again, this is just 3 screws which hold that in place. And now I'm just doing that small little belt for the little dial. This one's a little bit more fiddly because it wraps around, you'll see in a minute, it wraps around that little sort of, I don't know what you call it, like little cog piece. So you've got to sort of feed it around. So I've just got a screwdriver that just carefully tuck that onto the pulley in behind. Again, it's not too bad. It's a bit fiddly, but it's okay. It's, you know, pretty straightforward really. So now I'm just putting the rod back in place. This was probably the fiddliest part of the whole thing because you've got to hook it over on the mechanism. Then there's another little mechanism at the end with this little circlet which holds it in place. So that took a little bit more fiddling around to get that in, but it's okay, it got there in the end. And now I'm just tightening the mechanism back onto the front panel. It's a basic reversal of what we've just done, all the screws to go back in, holding it all in place. And now I'm just securing the front fascia panel back onto the main sort of frame of the tape deck. Just giving it a quick test over, make sure that the tape's going to be working okay. But you can see here, look, you can see the dial on the meter which is flickering. This is the issue that I've had with it, which I didn't show at the start of the video, but more often than not it's doing it pretty much every time. There's no issue now, it's playing, rewinding, fast forwarding, everything like that. So now I can move on to doing the bulbs. So with this, just got to be very careful and remove the holder for the VU meters. So I was trying to be as delicate as I can with this and just move the meters out of the way, and then you can sort of get access to push those bulbs out. The bulbs are actually glued in with some sort of horrible, I don't know what it is, some sort of yellowy horrible glue. So obviously that's just where it's got old over the years, where it was done in the 70s. So it's easier, I found, to sort of push the bulb out. I did break one of them doing it, but you can see here I've got a replacement. I think this was a 6-volt 3 milliamp. I will put in the description exactly what it was, but off the top of my head I think that's what it was. So now just carefully soldering them in place, and I've got a little bit of heat shrink to go over this afterwards, which will see me just using a small lighter just to warm that up carefully, just to shrink that over the area. Obviously you don't want to go over this too long, you don't want to burn it or set fire to it, it's just literally to warm it up. And again with the other bulb, doing exactly the same procedure. So I've made this look a little bit easier than what it was in the video. I've farted around with this quite a lot, trying to get it and hold it in place with one hand with a soldering tool. I need to get something to clamp it in place when I'm doing it really. So I'm just using now a bit of hot glue at the back just to hold the bulb in place, making sure that it's not actually going on the bulb itself. Obviously that will get warm. So this is just going on the bit holding the wire in place. And now you can see there the bulbs are working on that section. So I'd also done the cassette deck light as well, the one that you saw me remove when I said about the one wire. So I did that as well. I didn't actually show the process, but it was exactly the same as the other 2 bulbs. And now I'm just fixing the fascia panel securely now with all the bolts underneath. So this bit here that I'm pointing to, this is part of the recording mechanism. There's a little switch that's on the circuit board that when you press the record button, it operates that. And I think this is the issue that I've got with that Flickering VU meter. So I'm just spraying some deoxit into that switch, and I'm going to move it around, operate it as much as I can, and then spray a little bit more deoxit in there and just check that this is what it is. From the diagnosis I did just looking around and moving that mechanism, it seemed to react to the VU meter working and not working. So as you can see now, turning it on, There's no issues, it's absolutely fine, and that was what it was just a dirty switch. So if you do have that, it's worth looking at the switches around and giving them a good clean. So now I'm going on to the potentiometers on the front face, so just spraying some deoxit into them and working the knob, making sure it gets in all around and cleans and lubricates it. So now just going over and just cleaning the front fascia. I've just got some normal household cleaner that I'm just going around. It was quite a bit of dirty sort of grime from where people have been touching it over the years. And the front fascia panel itself actually was sort of tarnished at the top. It looked, I don't know really what it was. It was obviously some sort of dirt, but I've got a bit of Freckler polish, which is just a fine finishing polish. And I'm just going over this. I thought I'd try it, and actually it does a really good job and removes those staining on the front. So you can see that it's come out really well. It was hard to see the sort of the brown that I'm referring to beforehand, but it was on there and it just sort of tidied it up a bit. So now the lid's going back on, 2 screws either side. So before the lid went back on, I also give it a good hoover and brush out inside, but I didn't actually show that on the video, but I did that as part of it. So now we can do a quick test and just see how it's working after the repairs.
Yeah, be selective, be objective, be an asset to the
So straight away there you can see there's an issue with the sound playing slow. So there's a small adjustment you can do on the inside, on the side of the tape deck, which will make it go slow or faster. So we'll do that and then we'll test it again. So this is a small adjusting screw on the side of the tape mechanism. So this just needs to be rotated slightly. Obviously you just want to do it in small increments and test it, which is what I did. So now we can look at seeing what it sounds like after the adjustment.
of the line.
So after that adjustment, you can hear that it sounds a lot better than it did. It all sounds good to me. I don't have a specific tool to check the speed of it, but doing it by ear, it sounds good. And I listened to other sources to see what the speed of this song was going like, and it sounds okay. And as you can see, the VU meters are now working fine. There's no flickering. The lights are all working good. The little small light behind the tape, that's lit up well. There's no issues with the tape. There's no issues with chewing it up or anything like that. So the belt's obviously rectified that. So yeah, really happy with how this has come out. A good clean, a good service, and all the repairs. You can see it looks great with the other system components as well. It just looks at home now. So I'm really happy with this. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's helped people with the similar issues. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.